Justin Herbert is an incredibly talented guy. There's no doubt in my mind he is one of those unicorns that you hope to get and land in the draft. Back in the day, prior to the collective bargaining agreement of 2011, the Chargers would have had to have paid Herbert whatever the market bore for the quarterback at the time coming out of the draft, which is probably the highest paid player in the history of the Chargers franchise, sight unseen, not a single snap being done. They changed the system. Now they see at least 3 years from him, so they kind of know he's the guy, but he hasn't won a playoff game, and he's making the most money in the history of the National Football League. Are the owners cool with that now? Is this better than the previous system, do you think?
Well, I think it's better, at least in the sense that, it sounds like a cold term, but we're kind of flushing a lot of money down the table that could go to, you figure out who, should go to players, but players, owners, whatever. On players that really weren't advancing the league, weren't really helping their teams, so they were just mistaken draft picks. I mean, the intent of the system changed, and I was actually a part of the team that negotiated the deal, which both sides seemed to be in favor of. The league certainly more than the union, but they were both okay with it, was by taking less of the money and putting it into a pool that ends up getting, paid to players that really never achieve anything in the league. This money is still going to be in the cap, so it should go to veterans instead of, rookies. So, yes, everybody gets paid fairly or even too low, depending on how good they are the first 3 or 4 years. But then there's even a bigger pot of money after that to pay, for example, the Herberts of the league. I actually think that there's probably ideas in between those two extremes, but I do think this is better than all that money that was going into miscellaneous charges and devaluing the top picks and making it harder for the teams who are picking high to get better, which is the intent of, the upside-down draft. So I do think it was a step in the right direction. It makes more sense for the Herberts of the world, who at least are really good players, versus some of the players that were picked in the top 10 that, really ended up just taking a lot of money out of the league and away from other players without ever contributing anything to the league.
So where are we headed with quarterbacks? 60 million, 70 million a year? That's coming, right?
We are.
Right? Yeah.
That's what I say that these guys got a ton of money. It's ridiculous what I'm about to say, but they all did deals that were too long. I mean, Herbert is under contract for 2 more years, plus he signed a 5-year extension. They control his rights for 7 years plus tags. Mm-hmm. He may never get another contract. And 4 years from now, the cap is going to be probably 40% higher than it is right now when we're paying quarterbacks $52 million a year. So even the one extra year, even though it's way down the road from now, probably hard to worry about when you're looking at that kind of money.
Right.
They probably are costing themselves a year that they're probably going to get paid the equivalent of $45 million versus $70 to $80 million. Now, I'm talking 6 years from now, with where the quarterback market is going to go, if it even maintains close to the percentage of the cap that it's taking up these days. And it will, because they have more leverage than everybody.
So, how do you think Mahomes is feeling today, Joe?
He seems shockingly relaxed, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, he's got trophies in the case. Everybody's seeing how he ticks through his documentary. Life is great for him. I understand that. But do you think he sits there at any point in time and he's just like, okay, just at some point they got to revisit this thing? Because he's currently, after Burrow, he's almost out of the top 10 of highest paid per annual rate. What do you think?
Yeah, well, listen, I think at some point, even if he's not making an issue of it, going back to the conversation we said about the value of just kind of doing the right thing,
yes,
that they need to approach him and at least make adjustments, even they don't take him all the way to where he, would be if you started from scratch, for example. But, it's what I said about Barkley. There's a part of me, I worked in management that, really admires and appreciates players that are really focused on the game and the winning and all that kind of stuff. At the same time, there's no reason you shouldn't fight for what you deserve and what's fair. And clearly at this point, I mean, his deal really averaged, even if he earns all the incentives, it averages $50 million per year. Mm-hmm. And he's got a long way to go, and we're already at 52.5, and when Burrow signs, we'll probably be at 53.5 or something like that. So I don't think they have hit that point yet, but they're not far from the point where it actually just becomes the wrong thing to do to not make some adjustments.
Again, he's on your family tree, if you will, and Brett Veach, does he reach out, or they just like pass each other in the hallway and just give the head nod and just figure, let's just go win football games, or what?
They're still high-fiving after the game. They're still, hugging each other in the hallways.
Right. I'm just wondering, do you reach out to him first, or you just, got 9 years left on it, so just keep playing?
Yeah, if I'm reaching out, it's not for another year or two, but yes,
okay.
I think at that point, assuming he's playing as he is, we have no reason to think he won't be. I do. I actually reach out, and hopefully his mindset is, if my deal remaining average is 45 and the new deals are 55, okay, get me to 52. I mean, just get me someplace, that I can feel like I'm being respected. You don't have to pretend that we never did the deal. I understood the advantage of taking a long-term deal early. I got those benefits. I'm not asking you to pretend that didn't happen, but at least get me into the ballpark of where I should be based on who I am now.
Okay. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.